Hello and welcome to your Steeler Nation podcast, part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network and sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, Stryker, back at home today. And today, as the podcast airs, I will be at FedEx Stadium in Washington, D.C. area for Washington football team's new name release party. Pretty cool, huh? But thanks to Twitter and Reddit, we all know the team name. It will be the Washington Commanders. And it's sad when the name Washington football team is better than the Washington Commanders. But how did we get to this place? I mean, Dan Snyder, who's a billionaire, wouldn't pay a guy by the name of Philip McCauley for one of his team names that were all better than the Washington Commanders. Here's some of the team names that Philip came up with. He had the Washington Wolves, which pretty cool. Wolves are cool. Washington Veterans. We can all get behind Veterans. Washington Federals. I mean, Federals is kind of okay. It doesn't really mean much to me. Washington Americans. I mean, what's more American than the Americans? Would they have to be America's team? I don't know, but still better than the Commanders. And then Washington Monuments. That's pretty much what you think of when you think of Washington, D.C. I know they have the Capitals as a team. They have the Capitol Dome on their third jerseys. Great looking jersey. But my favorite name that they had was the Red Tails. The Washington Red Tails is like a call to the Washington Red Tail Hawks. They're here in the area. Also a call out to the Tuskegee Airmen who flew. Was the African-American pilots that flew in World War II that painted their tails red on their planes. Really cool. Just, you can either have really nice plane logos, airplane logos, or hawk logos with a hawk mascot. I mean, that just would have been good. And plus you would have been able to keep all of the basic names and songs pretty much intact. Hail to the Red Tails, HTTR being their abbreviation for hail to the old racist team. So, you know, there are some really good options, at least in my idea. And when I did some research today on Philip's stuff, I was surprised to see that he has a t-shirt called the Red Wolves Commanders. So it'll be interesting to see if he tries to say, look, I was already selling merchandise under the Washington Commanders. Of course, the Washington Wolves Commanders, but still might have some kind of say and try to do something there. I know he doesn't have the pocketbook that Snyder has, so probably wouldn't happen much. But I will give Steeler Nation my personal suggestions for team names that are still better than the Washington Commanders. First being the Washington Dumpster Fires. I mean, what has this organization been since Snyder took over, other than an absolute dumpster fire for the NFL? Middling competitiveness, trying to throw a lot of money in free agency, leading to some instances where you get a lot of people that you end up paying contracts and dead money for years because you got them at the end of their careers and they get hurt and they're out forever. Deion Sanders, and they can't play. So Bubba Smith, I mean, all these guys that were once great players that just are done in Washington. So the dumpster fires, especially too, like, I don't know if you guys, obviously you don't live in the Washington, D.C. area like I do. We hear all of the crap that happens with the front office rotation. I'm like, no other team has gone through more front office people and office workers and marketing department. Everybody leaves, like, it seems every other year. Whether it's for the team name that was original, whether it was for mistreatment of the staff, coercion of staff, a hostile workplace, which has all been things that have been mentioned here in these last few years when people leave the team. And the most egregious being my new team name, number 2, being the Washington Misogynists. So I don't know if you guys have heard this. Being in the DC area, I mean, it was kind of all over our media, but I will never forget the way the organization decided to treat their severely underpaid cheerleaders, treated them like escorts, treated them like strippers, having them pose nude for photos, and strongly suggest that they show certain clients a good time. The fact that Snyder still has a football team is appalling. It's even more appalling that Roger Goodell and the rest of the NFL are now culpable for the misogynists and their mistreatment of these young ladies when they only slapped Snyder on the wrist with a fine. Fines don't mean crap to billionaires. And making his wife serve as the team owner for a few months does absolutely nothing to teach this guy a lesson that he can use cheerleaders as his own personal harem to do with what he wants. Misogynists are the perfect name for the Washington football team, the Washington football misogynists. So, number 3 good name that I have for the Washington team would be the Washington Billionaires. Why not? We like money. Money's great. Congress and recently the presidency have all had billionaires in them, and now holding direct seats of government instead of dealing through lobbyists like they used to, like they did in the past, of course. And then with a billionaire at the helm, they should have no problem spending money in free agency. The Washington Billionaires, yay money. Put a big dollar sign on the side of those helmets. Team name number 4, the Washington Sheepshearers. Stand with me by this one. No one fleeces the fans of Washington football like Dan Snyder, the first owner to charge fans to watch preseason practice. And on top of that, also charged his fans for parking for said preseason practices. I mean, he also has this entire stadium complex, which he built, so there's nowhere to park and tailgate outside of his parking lots that he owns. There's this whole circle that goes around there. There's nothing else that's convenient to park and then walk to the stadium because he owns 360 degrees of all of the parking lots. So if you're going there to tailgate, you're putting money in that guy's pockets. And also some of the highest concession prices in all of NFL, which he used to gouge his 93,000 fans, banged down to 82,000 fans now since they had to skim some seats, since they started to lose some fandom there. Wonder how that happened there, Roger. Sheepshearers fleecing their fans like no other in the NFL. Buy their jerseys today. They have a nice sheep on there too. Be a great mascot. And my last suggestion for an even better name for the Washington Commanders is the Washington Redskin Potatoes. Keep the name, the songs, just add some carbs. Sure, the mascot will now be Mr. Potato Head, but that's a small price to pay to thumb your nose at the world for forcing you to change your name in the first place. Way to go. You showed them. You showed them all. So sad. I mean, I loved the XFL, and DC had a team. They had the DC Defenders, and that's still a better name than the Washington Commanders. So like they had at least like cool Captain America-esque shields that they could sell. And hopefully, you know, The Rock's trying to bring it back here soon. So I'm hoping, because I like the XFL product that they had the last time. COVID ended up being the thing that killed it. The city was completely behind it. But still, Defenders is still a better name than the Commanders. And I've never seen a cheaper billionaire in my life. And now we're going to have to be forced to listen to bad puns each and every time Washington plays Kansas City. I mean, I could just hear it now. I'm Joe Buck. I want everyone to like me, but I don't relate to the common man. Hey, Troy, this looks like a presidential matchup today between the Commanders and Chiefs. Yeah, Joe. I barely stand you either, but at least I get paid to spend time next to you. I wonder if they will bypass the national anthem and play Hail to the Chief instead. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun, NFL. Looking forward to it. Not. Steeler news, we should know very, 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 very soon who the defensive player of the year will be the official one, because TJ Watt has already won every single Defensive Player of the Year award offered by every other source. So next week, we should know early in the week who the next Defensive Player of the Year, and it will be TJ Watt. The two-time should have been Defensive Player of the Year will finally become Defensive Player of the Year in his third year. So congratulations in advance to you, TJ. Excellent season. And honestly, I'm looking forward to what you're going to put out next season, because each year you've just been getting more and more sacks, even better, even more driven. You give TJ one full year healthy in all 17 games. Look out. That sack record is rewritten. Going to be incredible to watch. Now it's time on the show for questions from Steeler Nation, where we take our questions over there from SteelerNation.com. So come on over to SteelerNation.com. It is free to join the forum, add to the fun, great football discussion over there. And this is where we ask questions from our users over there at the football forum every week. First questions come from /Steel. Who is your top Steeler to retain, blocking them from free agency? Okay, for me personally, it would have to be Joe Hayden and or Witherspoon, because both of those corners are going to be needed next year, at least one of them. But I try to get both of them, to tell you the truth. Witherspoon ended up doing a great job down the stretch, looked kind of like Nelson did for us when he was playing well in his first year with us. I like the way his trajectory is going. He plays good in our system, but Hayden's just the all-time KG veteran, man. He knows what he's doing. If we can give him on a 1-year contract, maybe in the 10 mil range, I don't know if he's going to take a little bit of a pay cut to be with us, but I would love to have him back. And I know a lot of you, Steeler Nation, would be like, Stryker, why not Juju Smith-Schuster? I mean, Juju's Pittsburgh guy. He's Litzberg, doing the dances, doing all the fun with Bougie over there on the TikToks. But yeah, for me, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a luxury when you have a team that you're developing a new quarterback with. We already have DJ on the team. He's the number one. He's going to get all the targets. Got Pat Freiermuth. He's going to be a big target in the middle. Gentry improved in the middle as well. On the edge, Claypool's got to improve. And I think he will. It was a down year last year for him. I think we'll bring in a veteran receiver too to kind of get in the mix. Probably draft a true slot receiver as well. So that'll be interesting to watch. But Juju's a luxury. He really is. We want to tie up $13 to $15 million on a guy that's a slot receiver. That's usually not what people do in the NFL. Other teams may do that. Kansas City might do it. The Raiders might do it. I'm hearing a couple other places, and Juju seems like he's already left town the way he's tweeting about it. So unfortunately, love the guy, would love for him to return, but he's a luxury, and I think he's priced himself out of the market here in Pittsburgh. Exclusive free agents, we have, or restricted free agents, I'm sorry. Dwayne Haskins, you have to re-sign. Fortunately for Haskins, you don't have to give him a first-round tender or a second-round tender. You can give him the original round tender, which is the lowest tender you can offer a restricted free agent, which you get the same value of the round that they were drafted in. He was a first-round draft pick. That's a $2 million value, being able to save $2 million to have him stay on your roster as an original round restricted free agent. No brainer. He's signed. He's locked. Spillane, I'd re-sign as well. He may be a starter next year. Marcus Allen, I know he's up there as well, but I'd probably let him go and try to re-sign him for less. Exclusive rights free agents, J.C. Hassenauer, no brainer. He's coming back. Great depth. He's already locked in with the team. You got to extend him. New question from /Steel. Has your brother made anything Steelerish being a blacksmith? And I've been spending a lot of time with my brother. We traveled down, of course, to Louisiana to the Ren Fair where he was working. He did make a pug knife that had a like black and gold handle and had some like even some gold sparkles in with the in the enamel on the black. Looked gorgeous. So it wasn't specifically a Steelers knife, but it was a beautiful black and gold knife. And they have great stuff over at Feargal Blades. And if you Google that, FEARGHAL Blades out of Austin, Texas. There's some great stuff over there you can look at and purchase. Do I have a citation for the equipment? Nope. And it's not here. No equipment here. Last question there from, another question from Celestial. I guess he has a couple more. And if you still aren't drinking, can we get one night to just ask a non-alcoholic cope a question thread? Definitely. I will plan on that one. I think I'll do that here this week before the Super Bowl. That'd be a fun way to spend a night, especially now that I'm back home. I'll have some evenings to hang out with you guys over there at SteelerNation.com and the football forum. Last question from /Steel. Say you and Loudermilk walk into a bar. Who interviews who? Well, I would be happy to be on Loudermilk's podcast, but it's got to be named Got Loudermilk. That would be the perfect podcast name. Mark that down, Loudermilk. I want you on my podcast too, bro. Hopefully you'll see you soon. Matt Insomniac asking his questions. The Bengals in the Super Bowl or Tiger King season 2? Which has the better ratings? I would love to say that Joe Exotic would get better ratings than Joe Burrow, but now Joe Burrow seems to be the wunderkind, the Joe America, the Joe Six-Pack, the Joe Everybody. I mean, people are getting behind this Macaulay Culkin-esque mother effer. So I'd have to, and Super Bowl rating is just king for ratings in any sorts of TV. It always kills. Doesn't matter who's in the Super Bowl. People are going to watch it. And the way that every single game from the divisional round on, 4 games in divisional round and the 2 games and the championship round, the best games or the best playoffs series I've ever seen in the NFL. That should do more for boosting the ratings and making this a better product. And still, like the Rams and the Bengals, I think that's still going to be a competitive game. I think the Bengals are a little bit more explosive on offense. I think the Rams still have a great offense. I think the Rams are a little bit more dangerous on defense, but still Cincinnati still has a great defense. This game's going to come down to turnovers and mistakes and who's going to monopolize and capitalize on those mistakes. So I think it's going to be a very high rated close Super Bowl. I don't know if it's going to be a low scoring Super Bowl or a high scoring Super Bowl yet, but I still think that the point differential is going to be within 1 score and it's still going to come down to the last quarter. Next question from Mad. So let's say Drew Brees makes it in year 1 and Rivers correctly doesn't. Do they screw Ben and elect Phil the pill over Ben to go with Brady or maybe Eli? Well, at least Ben only has to worry right now about Brady retiring this year. And honestly, there have been years, only 5 people get in every year, but there's been multiple years where 2 quarterbacks get in. This is one of those situations where Ben's going to be getting in with Brady. I mean, I don't think Rivers, the only thing that's holding Rivers back is his playoff performances. He was never good in the playoffs. He never had a single good playoff run or a single playoff game that anyone would remember and point to for his career as being like, oh, he was great in that game. He sucked in the playoffs. He was a great statistical quarterback in the regular season. Did not play well in big games. That's who he is. Is that a Hall of Famer? If you're going by his stats, yeah, maybe. If you're going by the way he plays and performs as a competitor in big games and postseasons and playoffs, definitely not. That's my stance on him. Of course, Brees is getting in. He was a phenomenal quarterback all throughout his tenure and won a Super Bowl against Manning. So, not a big deal. Like Eli's getting into. There's no, he's a first ballot, 2-time Super Bowl winner, even though he doesn't have the numbers that Ben and Rivers have. He's going to get in just for his postseason legacy. You don't win 2 Super Bowls and not make the Hall of Fame. Ben Roethlisberger included in that statement. Last question from Matt Insomniac. How much bull can a Pats troll if a Pats troll could troll bull? If I could think back to my old tongue twisters, I think the only correct statement to that would be he would troll as much bull as a Pats troll could troll if a Pats troll could troll bull. Thank you very much for the questions, guys. Steeler Nation, be sure to check out our sponsors over at tseshop.com. Check out the vidcast on Tuesdays live, 7 p.m., on youtube.com/Steeler Nation. Check out the great Pittsburgh Sports and Western Pennsylvania sports information over at dkpittsburghsports.com. Read our great Steelers articles over at SteelerNation.com. Tweet us at Steeler Nation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the Steeler Nation podcast on Twitter at _SN podcast or Instagram, Steeler Nation podcast, or follow me, Steeler Nation Stryker, SN Stryker on Instagram and Twitter. You, as always, go Steelers!